It was a quiet night in the middle of the desert. The stars above were bright, and the wind was still. Suddenly, something bright moved across the sky. It wasn't a plane, it wasn't a star. It was something strange, glowing blue and moving fast. A farmer saw it first. He dropped his flashlight when the light shot passed over his head. Moments later, the object fell behind a mountain with a soft boom. No one knew what it was. The ground shook a little, but not like an explosion. It was more like the earth had just taken a deep breath. Soon, the military arrived. Big trucks, helicopters, scientists in white suits. They rushed toward the place where the light fell. But when they reached it, there was no fire, no crater, only a small silver pod. And near it, sitting in the sand, was a girl. She looked about 17. Her hair was silver white, shining in the moonlight. Her skin glowed faintly blue. She wore a strange suit that looked soft like silk, but it had lines of light running through it. She looked scared, tired, but peaceful. She didn't fight them. She just looked at the soldiers and said in perfect English, "You're not safe. I came to warn you." They didn't know what to do. She looked human, but not exactly. Her eyes were too bright, too deep, like stars trapped in glass. The scientists whispered, was she real? A trick? A test? They took her to a secret lab far away from the city. Cameras watched her. Doctors ran tests. They didn't understand her blood, her suit, or her body. Everything about her was strange. Still, she sat quietly, waiting. One day, a group of top scientists came to speak with her. They asked her where she came from. She looked up and pointed to the sky. "I traveled 369 light years," she said softly. "My planet is gone. Yours will be next." They didn't believe her. A man laughed. "Why would a girl like you come alone to save Earth?" She replied, "Because no one else made it." They called her a liar. They said she was confused. They told the public nothing. The world kept spinning. People lived their lives. But in the lab, behind glass, she waited. Only one person tried to speak to her kindly. His name was Thomas. He wasn't a scientist or a soldier. He was just the janitor. He came every night to clean the floors and empty the trash. He saw her sitting alone, day after day. One night he spoke. "Do you want water?" She looked up at him and nodded. He gave her a bottle. Her hands shook as she took it. "You okay?" he asked. "No," she said. "Your world is not ready, and time is almost over." Thomas didn't laugh. He saw her eyes. They weren't lying. They were filled with something else, something heavy, like she had seen too much, lost too much. She told him her name was Elora. Her planet had once been full of light and music, but then something came from the edge of space, a dark wave that swallowed energy and life. Her people tried to stop it. Many died. Only a few escaped. "I carry a warning," she said. "The wave is coming here." Thomas didn't know what to say. It sounded crazy, but something in her voice made him believe her. The next day, the scientists returned. They had more tests, more questions, but they still didn't believe. "You're just trying to scare us," one of them said. Stood up slowly. The lights in the room flickered. "I tried," she whispered, "but you didn't listen." Suddenly, the lights above sparked. The air felt heavy. The cameras went dark for a moment. Elara's body was glowing brighter now. Not hot, not burning, but strange, like she was full of stars. The scientists stepped back. One pressed a button. Alarms began to ring. Thomas, watching from behind a glass wall, knew something was wrong. Not with Elareb, with the world. She looked at him through the glass. Her lips didn't move, but somehow, he heard her voice. In his mind, they won't believe until it's too late. Outside the lab, the wind began to rise. The sky turned cloudy. In the far distance, something unseen began to move. Thomas couldn't sleep that night. After what he saw at the lab, everything inside him felt different. The way the lights flickered, the strange sound in the air, and most of all, the way Elara had looked at him, like she already knew the future. The next morning, the lab was quieter than usual. Some equipment had stopped working. A few computers showed strange symbols on their screens, symbols no one could read. The scientists blamed the power system. They joked that it was just bad luck, but Thomas knew it wasn't luck. It was something else. He cleaned the hallway outside Elora's room. The cameras above her door were off. The red light was no longer blinking. He leaned closer to the small window in the door. Elara was sitting on the bed, looking down at her hands. He knocked gently. She looked up, her eyes tired, her glow dimmer than before. I believe you, he whispered. She stood and slowly walked to the window. Then you must help me. Thomas wasn't sure what he could do. He wasn't strong. He wasn't smart. He was just a cleaner. But something deep inside told him this moment mattered. What's going to happen? He asked her. Lara looked out the small window at the empty hallway. You have 6 days. He froze. 6 days until what? Until the edge of the wave touches Earth's orbit, she said. After that, nothing will work the same. The sky will change. The world will lose power. People will panic. Thomas felt cold. Why doesn't anyone believe you? Because I don't look like the danger they expect, she replied. And because they think their machines can protect them. There was a silence between them. Then, Thomas asked, why did you come here? Why not go to someone who has more power than me? She tilted her head. Because sometimes, the smallest voice is the one that listens. That night, he made a decision. He would help her leave. Not because he had a plan, not because he knew how, but because he believed her. And maybe, just maybe, belief was enough to begin something. Thomas waited until the late shift. Most workers had left. The hallway was dark. He carried a mop cart with a long coat and a lab ID badge inside. Lara was ready. She wore the coat and kept her head down. No one stopped them. The guards were busy arguing about the strange signal that had come through the lab radios earlier. A strange voice had whispered something no one could understand. They walked out into the night. The sky above was quiet. Stars blinked like tiny eyes. A soft wind moved across the parking lot. Lara looked up. It's close now. They got into Thomas's old van. He didn't know where to go, so he just drove, far from the city, into the hills. Lara sat quietly, watching the trees pass by. After an hour, she finally spoke again. There is a place we must reach, an old observatory. I saw it from space. It has what we need. Thomas nodded. We'll go there. He wanted to ask questions. About the wave, about her people, about the strange things happening to Earth. But he didn't. Not yet. Something told him she was holding back, and she needed time. The road was long. The night grew colder. Lara closed her eyes for a moment. Then she said softly, do you know what silence in space feels like? Thomas shook his head. It's not just quiet, she said. It's complete. No motion, no life, not even light. The wave makes it that way. It erases. Thomas looked at her. Then how do we stop it? She opened her hand. A soft blue light floated there, like a tiny star. This is part of my planet's heart. It holds knowledge, energy, and memory. If we can connect it to Earth's sky systems, we might block the signal. He didn't fully understand, but he didn't need to. She trusted him. That was enough. The van reached an old road. The observatory stood at the top of the hill, its round dome dark against the stars. They stepped out into the cold night. In the distance, a faint hum filled the air. It wasn't from the van. It wasn't from the building. It was coming from the sky. Lara looked up again. It's beginning. The observatory was silent. Dust covered the floor. Old machines sat in corners, long forgotten. But above them, the dome still pointed to the stars. Lara walked slowly through the room. Her hands touched the walls like she remembered them, though she had never been here before. Thomas followed, unsure what to expect. He had never seen so many strange screens and controls in one place. This place was once used to watch the stars. Lara said, her voice calm. Now it must speak to them. Thomas looked at her. What do we need to do? She opened her hand again. The soft blue light she had shown him earlier was glowing brighter now. It floated upward, spinning slowly. This is a signal key. I brought it from my world. If we send its message to the skies, it will show Earth what's coming. But will they believe it? Thomas asked. Lara looked at him for a long time. No, but they will feel it. Suddenly, the screen beside them lit up without touching it. Strange shapes appeared, symbols that Thomas couldn't read, but Lara could. Her fingers moved above the screen, never touching it, and the shapes began to turn into sound. A low hum filled the room. It started from the walls, then moved to the floor. The entire observatory began to vibrate, then it stopped, and then the stars began to move. Not all of them, just one, a bright one in the northern sky. It flickered, then blinked completely off. Thomas stepped back. Did you see that? Lara nodded. The wave has touched the outer orbit. What does that mean? He asked. It means Earth is no longer alone. The wave sees you now. Thomas looked out the small glass window. The sky was the same, but it felt different. The air was too still. The night, too quiet. Suddenly, the observatory's radio came on. A soft static played. Then a voice, low, broken, began speaking. Asterisk. Not in English, not in any language Thomas had heard. Elara turned slowly. Her face changed. It's repeating the warning. What's it saying? He asked. Prepare for stillness. The radio clicked off. Thomas took a deep breath. Can we stop it? Elara didn't answer. That night, news began to spread across the world. Strange signals were being picked up by stations in every country. Some were just static. Others were strange sounds like whispers from deep underwater. Machines began to fail. Not all at once, but slowly, like something invisible was pressing against them. Airplanes turned back mid-flight. Satellites stopped sending signals. City lights flickered. People thought it was just a problem with power systems. A storm in the sun, maybe. But Elara knew better. The next day, Thomas drove them to a small radio station in the mountains. It was old but still working. They used it to send a simple message across the open air. This is not an attack. This is a warning. Earth is not alone. A wave is coming. Prepare for silence. They sent it in every language they could. Some people heard it. Some laughed. Others panicked. But most didn't listen. Elara sat outside the station that evening. Her eyes watched the stars. It's strange, she said. Your people are so full of sound, but you do not hear. Thomas sat beside her. We hear only what we want. She nodded. My people did the same. A soft wind blew through the trees. Far above, something invisible moved across the sky. Not a ship, not a light, just absence. Like a shadow too far to see, but close enough to feel. Elara closed her eyes. Tomorrow, part of your world will lose light. Thomas frowned. You mean night? No, she said. I mean light that doesn't return. That night, half the world went dark for exactly 6 minutes. No power, no signals, no explanation, just silence. Then everything turned back on, but people were shaken. Some believed it was a test. Others thought it was a glitch. Elara and Thomas watched the news in silence. Then Elara said quietly, the wave was only saying hello. Asterisk. The sky looked the same, but something had changed. People around the world tried to go on with their lives. News channels talked about satellite errors and natural space activity. Experts gave long explanations, but no one could explain the silence the moment when the lights had gone out. Elara knew that silence was only the beginning. She sat in the back of the van, her head resting against the window. Her glow was weaker now. The energy she had used at the observatory had drained her. Thomas noticed her breathing had become slower. Her hands trembled. He pulled over on a quiet road near an empty field and gave her water. You're not well, he said gently. I used more than I should have, she whispered, but we needed to send the message. Thomas didn't know what to do. He looked out at the stars. They blinked quietly above, as if nothing was wrong. Elara, he asked, you said this wave. It isn't natural. She turned her head toward him. Her voice was soft, but serious. It's not. It was made, long ago, before your world had language. Made by who? She hesitated, then spoke slowly. They were called the architects of stillness, a race that believed the universe was too loud, too wild. So they built something, a force that would move through space and quiet everything. Thomas blinked. Why? They thought silence was peace. They didn't understand that life is sound. They believed the stars spoke too loudly, so they began to close them, one by one. Where are they now? They were lost to their own creation. The wave kept moving, even after they were gone. A soft wind blew through the open window. Somewhere far away, a bird called out into the night. So the wave, Thomas said. It's just moving on its own now. Elara nodded. It listens. It learns. It changes its shape depending on the world it reaches. And now it's learning about Earth, he said. Double quotes. Yes. And Earth has so much noise, so much sound, music, machines, voices. It will come faster now. Thomas sat quietly. Can it be stopped? She opened her palm again. The small light watch she had called the key was even smaller now. It pulsed faintly, like a weak heartbeat. This is all that's left of my world, she said. Our scientists placed it inside me when I was a child. It carries our memories, our knowledge, our defense. Defense, Thomas asked. Like a weapon. She shook her head. Not a weapon, a pattern, a song, something that might confuse the wave, something that might make it forget. Thomas looked confused. Forget? If it forgets why it came, it might stop. That's the hope. The next morning, they continued their journey. Elara guided them toward a hidden location, a deep mountain cave, where she believed a signal hub existed, a place where the song could be sent across the Earth's upper skies. As they reached the edge of the forest, Thomas saw something in the sky, a ring, faint far, but clear, a dark ring round the planet's edge, like a shadow just waking up. Elara stared at it for a long time. It's touching the upper layers now. They found the cave just before sunset. Old cables ran through the rock, forgotten wires, a room with broken screens and a rusted satellite dish above it. This was once part of Earth's early space program, Elara said. It still listens to the stars. Thomas helped her inside. Her steps were slower now. Her skin, once glowing, looked pale, but her eyes were clear. She placed the small light into the center of a control panel. A soft blue pulse moved through the cables. Then the screen lit up, showing thousands of small dots, each one a satellite or a space station. Some still working, some long dead, but all connected. Elara whispered something in her own language. The screen flickered again. Then a soft tone began to play. It wasn't loud, it wasn't sharp, it was gentle, like the sound of wind through trees, like the voice of someone far away, calling home. Thomas listened. The tone made his chest feel warm. It was both sad and beautiful. What is this? He asked. It's what's left of us, Elara said, and it's the only thing that can reach the wave. They watched as the sound spread across the network. The small dots on the screen began to blink, one by one. Then something unexpected happened. The screen turned black. The sound stopped, and a new symbol appeared. Thomas stared at it. What's that? Elara's face changed. Her lips trembled. It replied. Asterisk. The screen stayed dark. The strange symbol glowed faintly in the center, slowly turning like it was alive. Neither Thomas nor Elara spoke. The cave was silent, except for the soft hum of the old machine. Elara stepped forward. Her fingers hovered above the controls, but she didn't touch them. What does it mean? Thomas asked. Elara stared at the symbol for a long time. It's not just a reply, it's recognition. Recognition of what? Of me, she said. Or maybe of the song. It heard the pattern, ... and now it's thinking. Thomas didn't know how to feel about that. The wave, whatever it really was, had been quiet until now, but now it was listening. That thought alone made the air in the cave feel heavier. Suddenly, the power flickered. The cables above them buzzed. Outside, the sky darkened, not because of clouds, but something else. The stars dimmed slightly, as if the heavens were holding their breath. Then, all at once, the power returned. The screen blinked. A new message appeared. For words, you carry the spark. Elara whispered the words aloud. Her voice cracked at the end, and she placed a hand over her chest. Thomas looked at her. What does it mean? She sat down slowly, her body tired, her breathing shallow. My people called the core the spark of memory. It holds everything we were. The wave recognizes it, which means it remembers what it once destroyed. So it's thinking about your world now. Elara nodded. It may pause, but not for long. Its nature is movement. It will continue unless we change its path. How? Thomas asked. We've sent the message. You've done everything you can. Not yet, she said softly. There's still one place I must go. Thomas waited. I need to reach low orbit, she said. I must bring the spark as close to the wave's surface as possible. That's the only way to sing directly to it. Thomas blinked. You mean space? Yes, just above the planet. From there, the message will be complete. Earth has many satellites still spinning. One of them can carry the signal. But we don't have a ship, he said. And even if we find one, how will we launch it? There's a place, she said. Your people built it long ago, in secret. A testing ground for high-altitude travel. I saw it from above when I first arrived. Do you know where it is? Elara looked up at the fading stars. South, in the desert, buried in stone. Thomas nodded. Then we go. The next morning they left the cave. The screen had gone dark again, but the symbol remained burned into their minds. You carry the spark. As they drove through empty roads, the world around them began to change. Small towns had no power. Traffic lights didn't work. People stood outside their homes, holding phones with no signal, staring at skies that felt too quiet, a soft static-filled radios, even when turned off. In the distance, Thomas and Ilara saw people gathered near large buildings, looking up. They weren't shouting, they weren't panicking, they were just watching. The ring in the sky had grown, still faint, still far, but real now. A curved edge, slowly forming a circle around the planet, like the horizon had a second outline. Thomas turned off the road, following Ilara's guidance. They reached an old path covered in sand and cracked stone. At the end stood a wide steel door, half buried in rock. "This is it," Ilara said. They walked together, pushing against the heavy door until it opened. Inside was a chamber full of dust and old machines. A single launch rail stretched through the middle, pointing straight up through a broken ceiling. Beside it sat a small craft, half rusted, but still whole. Its design was unlike any modern plane, more like a test shuttle, built for one mission that never came. Thomas looked at it. "Can this thing even fly?" Ilara placed her hand on the side of the ship. A soft light moved through its surface. "It can." Now he turned to her. "What about you? You're weak. You can't go alone." "I won't be alone," she said. "You'll come with me. You're the only one who stayed, the only one who listened. And the wave must see what belief looks like." Thomas didn't speak for a while. He looked at the shuttle, at the stars, then at Ilara, who stood before him, glowing faintly again, but with fire in her eyes. Finally, he nodded. "When do we leave?" Ilara looked at the sky. "Before the stars go silent." The sky above the desert was turning pale. Morning light touched the tops of the dusty hills, but the air felt heavier than before. Something unseen moved high above Earth, quiet, invisible, patient. Inside the old launch facility, Thomas and Ilara prepared the shuttle. It wasn't built for comfort. The seats were old. The panels were covered in dust. Yet, somehow, the moment felt right. Ilara sat near the front, eyes closed. Her hands rested on a crystal panel that now glowed with blue light. She was connected to the ship, her energy guiding it, waking it. Thomas looked around the small cabin. He had never flown anything in his life, not even a drone. But here he was about to go into space, not because he was trained, not because he was chosen, but because he was the only one who believed. "Ilara," he said, "what happens when we get there?" She opened her eyes slowly. "We bring the spark to the edge of the wave. If it listens, it may turn away. And if it doesn't." She didn't answer at first. Then she said quietly, "Then Earth will sleep." Thomas took a deep breath. "And you?" She looked at him with soft eyes. "I'm not meant to return. The spark inside me, it will merge with the signal. Once it begins, I will become part of it." Thomas froze. "But there must be another way." "There isn't," she said. "My people gave me this gift knowing the cost, but it's worth it." He sat down beside her. The engine behind them began to hum a deep, smooth sound. The launch rail shook slightly as energy flowed into it. Outside, the sky was turning a strange shade of silver. A thin, wide cloud moved across the horizon, but it wasn't made of water, it was made of silence. A soft blur in the sky that swallowed all birdsong, all breeze, all sound. The ship began to rise slowly, not with fire, not with force, with calm power, as if it was being lifted by thought. They rose above the desert. The hills grew smaller below them. The curve of Earth slowly appeared, and far beyond, the dark ring had completed its shape. It now circled the planet like a crown, quiet, perfect, and waiting. Thomas had no words. The beauty, the silence, the scale, it was beyond anything he had imagined. Ilara sat still, her eyes glowing softly, her breath steady, her voice gentle. "The wave is closer than it appears. It hides in light. It folds around the edges of space, but we are close now." The ship passed through thin clouds. They floated above Earth's sky, where stars were already visible again. The planet below was peaceful, so full of life, so unaware. A soft sound came from the control panel, not a warning, a song. The spark had begun. Blue lines of light moved through the ship. They passed through Ilara's hands and into the main system. A beam of soft energy extended from the ship, pointing toward the edge of space, toward the wave. The wave responded, not with sound, not with movement, with presence. The ship shook slightly. The air inside became colder. The stars outside flickered. Then, a voice not heard through ears but through the mind filled the cabin. Why do you carry sound? Elara answered, not with her mouth, but with her heart. Because sound is life. Sound is memory. Thomas felt the words move through him like wind in the chest. The ship's light grew. Brighter dot. The voice returned. You are not part of the silence. Elara's glow deepened. Her body began to fade gently into the light around her. Thomas turned to her, tears forming in his eyes. Elara, wait. She smiled at him, her voice barely above a whisper. You brought me here. That was enough. The spark rose from her chest like a small star. It moved into the beam, and the ship became still. Then, silence, but not the kind that erases. A peaceful, full silence. The kind that comes after a song ends not because it was lost, but because it was heard. Outside, the wave paused. The ring began to break. One part cracked gently like glass under sunlight. Another faded like mist. The dark crown around Earth began to scatter piece by piece till it was no longer whole. The ship floated quietly above Earth. Elara was gone, but the spark remained, shining softly within the beam, still speaking, still singing. Thomas looked out at the stars. One of them blinked, then another. The sky was waking again. He closed his eyes and whispered, "She did it."